prayed for me. When I sing that song, I can't help it. My mind go back and think about praying moments. Thank God for praying moments. If you're not a praying moment tonight, pray that you'll start hitting your knees.
Yes, sir.
There's something powerful about I told them in Sunday school today, there's no lack on God's part of power. There's a lack of faith on ours. There's no inability for God to do anything He wants to do. It's a lack of our faith. And I told him, I said, you can laugh at me if you want to, but I said, something as simple as trying to get your chores done and start the rain, pray, God, please hold off the rain, and God stops the rain. Now, you can call that coincidence if you want to, but I believe in the power of God. When you pray and say, God, would you please help my baby, and the doctors can't come out, they can't find the tumor. You can call that whatever you want to. I call it answers to prayer. You pray and you have faith.
Yeah.
And God can move.
Amen.
Pray for me.
Amen.
Richard, I want to say just a word. It will take about 30 seconds. Every time that boy sings that song, my mind goes back to that coal mining camp down in Putnam County. When I was 8 years old, and Dad called me in the back room and he said, son, I've got something I want to tell you. 8 years old, I didn't really understand what was going on. But he said, Mama's gone. I was 8 years old. If you still have your mother, honor that, go out there. But you know what? I have a hope, it's a promise that I'm getting close. I'll get to see my big man. I'll be able to live with a forever. Hallelujah, glad to say it. Oh, Ron, you're just emotional. No. The Holy Spirit's bubbling.
Amen. Amen. That one. Anybody else? We'll just talk to these fellas, because they got no clue what I'm preaching on. I was sitting there, told him to sing. I didn't prepare it properly. I just said, Ruth, sing one. A lot of times I tell people what to sing for the service based on what the Lord's led me to. As I'm studying, he'll tell me. He's singing about Mama. He's talking about Mama. I preached on the family today. Amen. So I want you to grab your Bible and go to two places, Joshua 24 and 15. We're just going to read that verse to start off with. Joshua 24 and 15. And then after you get over there, I want you to mark and get over to Ephesians 5 and 22. Anybody that knows their Bible knows a little bit about where we're going and what we're doing. Joshua 24 and 15, very popular verse. And Ephesians 5 and 22 gives some instructions for the family. I realize this. I come here to apologize this morning because I haven't preached on this for a long time. And after thinking and praying on it, I've decided we're going to visit this morning, and we're going to visit it much, much more in the future. And the biggest problem in the church right now, and probably many years in the past, is not somebody coming in. I know there's only somebody trying to destroy the church. We preached on the wheat and the tares and the false professions not too long ago, and we know that the devil plants tares wherever God plants Christians. The devil plants tares, and there's people in probably every single church that aren't even saved and that aren't there to be a part of the body of Christ, to be Christians. They're there to play games. They're there to get what they want and run their little social club and whatever. We understand all that. We preached on that last week. We understand that, but the biggest challenge in church, I don't believe in those tares, because if we got enough spiritually discerned people, they're going to know, everything's going to be all right. If we got enough people following God and everything like that. And the spirit we've had in our church is phenomenal, and I think we're in a wonderful, wonderful place. And but I believe the biggest challenge we've got as a church and keeping our church together and keeping growth together and things happening starts in the family unit. Say amen right there. It's the families that's falling apart, not the church. And the church diminishes because the families fall apart and they fall out of church. I mean, that's what happens. And our church is only going to be as strong. It's going to be a whole different kind of message. I may not even get fired up. I may just say things and stare at you for a minute. Amen? The church, listen, is the church is only as strong as the units that make it up. And the family is only as strong as the units that make it up. So when people fall apart and their family falls apart, it diminishes the church, if you will. And several years back, we did a series on the family. I talked about the godly woman. That was a fun one, amen. I talked about the godly man. The women were shouting amen on that. I talked about godly children. Everybody was shouting at the kids on that. I preached on marital mathematics from the book of Genesis and how 1 and 1 become twain, one flesh. 1 plus 1 equals 1 in marital mathematics. And I talked about child rearing, amen, and how to whoop your children, amen. That was good too. And I almost feel like going back to them and redoing them because most of you wasn't here when we did them. We did them on a Sunday night, and many of you have came since that. That was 2 or 3 years ago. But we had a great a theme to it, and a lot of people liked it. But what got me thinking about this was I heard an evangelist, a well-known evangelist, a man that's traveled 40 years, and he was talking about what he does in revivals. And we think oftentimes when we think about revival, we think about soul winning, we think about evangelism, we think about getting the sin out, we think about getting right with God, we think about repentance, and all that stuff. I preach on it when I do revivals. But this man said, this seasoned evangelist said, every single revival, I preach one message on the family. That kind of blew my mind, but then I started thinking about that. If we can strengthen our families, it strengthens the church. We can have revival at a family level. We can have revival at a church level. And listen, y'all know how we do it. Sunday night's more discipleship. That's why we get it on that night. That's more Christian growth. On Wednesday nights, Bible study. On Sunday mornings, more encouragement and things like that. But I want to preach on this morning, maybe more like a Sunday night. But I want to preach it. And I sit back and realize that I've never really focused 100% on the family on a Sunday morning message. And that's what we're going to do this morning. And I want to do it more in the future as well, but everything in your life is going to be predicated upon the home life. Your happiness, your joy, everything that's going on is going to be predicated upon your children, your spouse, and your family unit. I want our families to be the very best that they can. I want to see the entire group of young people that we have, the 20 and 30 we have in Masters Club, the 10 to 15 we have in teens right now. I want to see those grow, but I want to see each and every one of them grow up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And it ain't going to happen from 30 minutes on a Wednesday night. It ain't going to happen from the Masters Club for 9.5. It's going to happen in the home. I want them to know what real love looks like in the home, which in turn shows them the love of God. It is so hard to win a child to Jesus Christ and tell them there's a Heavenly Father that loves them when their daddy left them, or their daddy beat them, or their daddy treated them like trash their whole life. I mean, it's nearly impossible. I want every marriage in the room to have the love of God in it and the power of God in it. I want all our children to grow up never ever seeing mom and dad in a fight. That was a promise me and Carla made when we were young. I ain't bragging, but none of my kids will tell you, they can't tell you of a single fight they've ever seen us in. Now, we're a crazy family. We yell and act stupid all the time. I'm like, woman, get my dinner. But they know it's not a fight. They know nothing's happening. And I'm just telling you, if they grow up watching you bicker and fight, that's what they think it is. Guess what they're going to do to their husband or wife? Yeah. Bicker and fight and probably go to the next level, because the next generation is always worse. So you might grab your wife, you might yell at her, but they're going to sock them in the face. I'm just telling you the truth. Go look at psychology statistics. Repeat offenders. It happens all the time. It's starting in childhood. I want our children to grow up watching mom and dad love each other and never have a problem. I want them to grow up, I never ever in my life saw my mom and dad fight. Now I found out later that they did, but that's when we got grounded for no reason and sent to our room. Y'all go to your room. Come on, I didn't do nothing. What'd I do? I know I'm bad. I didn't do nothing this time. Just go to your room. Maybe because there was a problem. But they were smart enough to do it behind closed doors. They were smart enough, if they were going to talk about the preacher, they were going to try and figure something out, they were going to do that. They were smart enough to do it away from the children. I know people right now that churches are falling apart and things are happening and wicked immorality and stuff's happening in the churches, and 12 Listen, there are a tremendous amount of so-called Christians, and they probably say, they ain't saying they are or ain't, that live in so-called Christian homes. But I guarantee you some of their homes are as worldly as you could ever imagine. Joshua 24:15 says, I don't even got to read the whole verse. I can. And if it seems evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve. We preached on that not too long ago. Whether the gods of your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house. You hear that? Man making a decision for his house. Men. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Now, I don't believe any born-again Christian is going to disagree with that. Say, hey, we're not over here now. Give me a different plaque to put in my kitchen. We ain't going to serve the Lord. That ain't going to happen. I mean, anybody that's saved is going to say, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. But I want you to tell me, how in the world can you do that, sir, if your wife has no respect for you at all? How in the world can you say that if your wife has no clue about biblical submission and just says, I ain't going to do it, I don't give a rip if it's in the Bible or not? Cricket, cricket. How can you say that, ma'am, if your husband is as carnal as can be? He don't give a rip about Wednesday night. He don't give a rip about Bible reading. It's all about sports. It's all about hunting. It's all about carnality and everything in the world. How are you going to say, as for me and my family, we're going to serve the Lord? You can't. How are you going to say that, husband, if you're too scared to lead your family in a prayer before bedtime? You can't say it. How can you say it if your kids are wilder than bucks and you got no control of them, even if they're 8 years old? You can't say that. How you going to say it? Me and my house are going to serve the Lord. If your 9-year-old will look you in the face and say, no. Guys, we going to serve the Lord. No, we ain't, Daddy. Oh, okay. That's the world we're living in today. That's the world we're living in today. And the teenagers are even worse a lot of times. We will serve the Lord, son. You're stupid, Dad. Do you really think it's going to get better as they get older? As time elapses, you think the marriage is going to get better or worse? You think the children are going to get better or worse? And if we want to see our families serving the Lord, it's going to take a group of people with a heart for the things of God. I'm not talking about playing on Sunday. I'm not talking about all these things. I'm talking about a real heart for the things of God. It takes a family unit. Yeah, it's got to start with a spiritual leader. We'll talk about that. It's got to start somewhere. But God is powerful enough to spread it through your family if you'll start living it. If you'll start doing it, God is powerful enough to take your children and fix them. God is powerful enough to teach your wife some biblical things. God is powerful enough to take your husband, man, when you start living godly and saying you don't want to see things and hear things. God is powerful enough to convict them and draw them to Him. And all that, the heart for the things of the Lord, is taught in the home. We can talk about it here for 30 minutes, but we can't really teach it and impart. They got to learn it at home. Now I'm going to try and help you from the pulpit, and it's only going to work if your home has a heart for God and to learn the things of God. The husband has to have a heart for the things of God. The wife has to have a heart for the things of God. And the children have to have a heart for the things of God. Or else there is no way you can successfully say, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Take the plaque off the door, take the plaque out of the kitchen, throw it out of your house, because it ain't nothing but a stinking lie. Hey, I said it'll be a little different today. I want to preach on this thought. Home is where the heart is. Home is where the heart of God is taught. Home is where your children will learn who God really is. Not everybody putting on a show on Sunday. I don't wear a suit every day I'm sitting at home, but I come to church and I put on my suit. Put on a show. We all put on a show, amen? You ain't going to come in here and talk the way you talk to your wife in the morning when you're a grumpy man. You took her last coffee mug and she's upset. She got to get to work. Man, y'all ain't going to come in here like that. I had a video. I should have showed the video where the family's fighting the whole way to church, and then as soon as they get out the door, smiles just eclipse their faces, and all of a sudden they walk in, they're singing victory in Jesus, and everything's wonderful, just after they fought the entire way to church. It's learned in the home. I know there's always problems, there's always reasons, but man, we got to do our best to make it a godly home where the love of God is present. So I want to look at three things about the heart of God that must be learned in the home from Ephesians chapter number 5. Flip over there, chapter number 5, verse 22. And I can just read all of these real fast since you asked me to, and then we will preach on all of them. 5:22 says this, wives. Well, let's do 21 just to make everybody feel good. Submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. 22, wives, submit yourself unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. You ought to be subject to your husband in everything. Husbands, here's for y'all, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. You ought to die for her, man. That he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word. That he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and unblemished. So ought men to love their wives as their own body. You ought to love her more than you care about yourself. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourished it and cherished it, even as the Lord the church. For we are the members of his body, of the flesh and of his bones. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife. Mom and Dad, keep your business out of your children's love life and love affair once they're married. And they shall be one flesh. They're no longer yours. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. We'll mention in a minute that he's supposed to love you. You ain't even told to love him. You just got to reverence him. That's what the Bible says. Chapter number 6. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise. First commandment with promise. I like that right there. What's the promise? That it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Lord, we love you. God, I ask you to help us today. God, help us, Lord, just to learn some things about the family unit. Dear God, it's a practical message, God, but I ask you for us to practically apply things to our life. God, don't make it in vain. Don't let me waste my time. Don't waste our time, God, just talking about stuff and nobody apply it. But God, I ask you, Lord, that people take notes, that people look at things, take them home, change some things in their life, decide it is right, decide it's not the preacher talking, it's the Bible talking, and decide that they're going to change some things in their life. And God, let us see some families, God. Let us not see any more divorce in our church. Let us not see any more children go wayward, God. Let us not see any more children get hooked on dope, God. Let us not see any more families fight and have just a worldly atmosphere in the home. But God, I ask you, Lord, let us all be able to boldly proclaim, as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord, God, and live like it, and not live a lie. Lord, we love you and thank you. And in Jesus' name, amen and amen. Now I want to preach fast. Sorry, 11:52. I got 3 messages combined in one. Hallelujah. I'm going to move through it fastly, but I want you to take notes on some of it. The very first part is going to be at you youngins. That's why y'all ain't having junior church, because even you 8-year-olds need to hear this stuff. You teenagers need to hear it. But look in chapter 6, 1 through 4. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Number 1, we need little ones in subjection. Your children need to be in subjection to you, so that they are therefore in subjection to God. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is good. You can't get nowhere else around that. What's obey mean this morning? Submit, comply, follow the directions or instructions of. That's what it means to obey. You comply, you submit, you do what they want. It is a commandment. It is not a subjection. Somebody say amen right there. Children, it is a commandment. It's not an example. It's not a suggestion. And what that means is when they tell you to do something, when should you do it? Do you know that delayed obedience is disobedience? Do the dishes, Lord. Hour later, they ain't done. Disobedience. You ought to get pounded. Listen, hey, it's real. We're teaching our children so that they can function in the real world and so they'll be obedient to God. God says, hey, witness to that person. You know what you say? I ain't got time. Maybe later. I'll talk to him later. And you walk off. That's your delayed disobedience because you're a child. Hey, glory. We all do it. Come on. Amen. Hey, a sigh is pure rebellion. A rolling of the eyes is pure rebellion. The word but, Brock, is pure rebellion. Some kids got a sentence for everything you tell them to do. About to get ready to do this. But I need to do this. But Mom, I used to, listen, I got out but and the T stayed in there because Mama Sparks, but pow! Right in the face. I'm talking driving. She could drive with the left hand, she's right handed. Said, but pow! He was like, whoa, glory to God, all right. It's pure rebellion, man. It doesn't matter if you're sad. It doesn't matter if you're upset. It doesn't matter what it is. It don't matter if you're depressed. It don't matter if you had a bad day. Back talk is sin. Here's the problem. The parent that allows it is promoting sin within their children. Yeah. Create an infidel. Or if you're, listen, if the almighty, all-knowing teenager knows so many things and what they feel that the parent has just told them to do is wrong or a mistake. And maybe it is. It doesn't matter. You do what they say and obey. Maybe later on, when they're not in the same mood, you can say, no, I really didn't do that, Mom. I love you. I did what you told me to, though. But not in disrespect. And usually the problem is the parents honestly have to put the fear of God in them. That Bible we be reading, Preston, I ain't going to say his name because we're on video. That commentator we've been reading, he talks about, in the fear of God, when you look it up by most commentaries and commentators and different definitions, the fear of God is a reverence for God. He says people have watered down this stuff, and a fear of God ought to be fear that God's going to rain judgment down on you, and real fear that we're serving a holy God that don't like unholy things. And we ain't raised our children in the fear of God. That's why they claim and profess to be saved all over Facebook, drinking whiskey on the very next post on Facebook. There is no fear of God. Hello! They don't think God's going to do anything. They don't care if they're spitting in God's face. They spit in your face by disrespecting you, and in turn, there's disrespected authority, and they're spitting in God's face himself. But they ain't scared of nothing because you ain't done nothing to them. You ain't disciplined them, and now you're teaching them to not fear God, and they're going to grow up, and when you're no longer the authority, and God is the authority, they'll spit in his face, and if they ain't saved yet, they'll probably go to hell because they'll never submit to God. It all ties together. Breeding rebellion in our young ones is breeding rebellion to God. As for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. It doesn't work if you have no control. You can't say it. Here's the thing. You're always going to be under authority of somebody. There's a biblical passage. You are under the authority of your parents as a child. The woman is under the authority of the husband. Sorry, ladies. The family is under the authority of the pastor. Sorry, I can show you the verses. The pastor is under the authority of God. And everybody's under the umbrella of the authority of God. So when you disrespect the next one in line, you're disrespecting the higher authority. You understand that, right? You drive home and talk about the pastor and run me down, or run the next pastor down the road down. That's why we talk about never talking about preachers. People like to talk about them, even groups of preachers, talk about other preachers and put them down and don't like their style and all this other stuff and say they do this and say they do this. Shut your mouth and keep your mouth off any man of God, because that's what the Bible says, and that's your authority if he's your pastor. It's hard to preach on that stuff. But it's just Bible. But it don't matter to me. You can hate me all you want. You can talk about me on the way home from your kids. You're the stupid one. And you're the one that's making God mad at you. Amen. As long as I preach Bible, he ain't mad at me. So be smart about it. And when parents teach you obedience by discipline, they are teaching you to function in life, young people. You are always under the authority of somebody. You'll have a job. Your boss. The next part, we didn't even read it. Servants, be obedient to them that are over your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and singleness of heart, as unto Christ. Even your boss. Even your boss. If we don't teach them to obey authority now, they're going to rebel against it. Many children are on their way to hell because they see God as an authority and they rebel against Him. They wanted salvation. Come on now. They wanted salvation and to live any way they want. God save me and take me to heaven, but I'm going to live the way I want. The same way they want your food and your housing. I want to stay under your roof. But then you ask them to do something and they tell you no to your face and laugh at you. Verse 2 talks about their attitudes. Honor your parents. Look at it. Honor thy father and mother. That's what these guys just said over here. Which is the first commandment with promise. I'll tell you why it's with promise. I may have it down here later in my notes. But first commandment, it's an earthly promise. The commandments weren't about salvation. They were about living right with God. They'd already been redeemed. So God gave them a way to live right. So honor thy father and mother. And it's a commandment with promise. What's the promise? That they're going to live long. Honor means to respect or to hold high in regard. Do you honor them today? Do you honor your parents? Many of us just do it blatantly and out front. I mean, youngins, I know I did. I'm preaching myself this morning. But sometimes a wicked child will obey his parents, but secretly despise them in his heart. Carries out their orders, but murmurs and complains, cursing and talking about them to their friends and behind their back. Huge problem in the church. It's evident in the exit rate. Go through your head right now and think of the children that grew up in all the churches around here. Maybe the kids that grew up in this church. And go ahead and tell me how many of them are still in the church serving God. And they may act it perfect when they was under their parents' roof. Oh, that's a good Christian kid. Then as soon as they turn 18, gone. Gone. Won't want anything to do with God. I'm telling you, I managed banks for 12 years, and we hired 18 and 19-year-olds because they're tellers, base level, low pay, and you bring them in, they count the money, they hand it out, and that millennial age, the younger age, whatever, if there's a new one, I'm telling you, I would have a 50 or 60-year-old working for me as a teller, one of them older ladies that just liked it, did it her whole life. Her husband made good money, and she was just doing that. And they would be, even though they've been doing it longer, they probably knew the teller system better than me, they'd be of complete respect all the time. Just kind to the authority in the branch. But then you have these 19-year-olds that thought they knew everything, wouldn't listen to you. You ask them to do something, they don't even halfway do it, they can't even do it, and it's just like, what in the world is wrong with our world nowadays? I believe it's tied to discipline. I believe it's tied to the raising they're getting. They don't respect their boss, they don't respect their parents, they ain't going to respect their pastor, and they ain't going to respect God. I mean, listen to me, I'm just being real this morning. It is sickening watching some children straight up disrespect their parents, even in public. I'm talking a sharp tongue, I'm talking back talking, I know-it-all garbage. I hate all that. Listen, if your child tells you no in your face, especially in front of people, there's a serious problem that's going to grow if you don't stop it. And if you keep doing it, you're going to end up being a failure as a parent. Because the fault lies in the parent. I don't know this to be a 100% true quote, but one psychologist said this: there are no bad children, only bad parents. Now, I know there's bad seeds, kids are just going crazy. But a lot of times, the kids that don't act right is because they ain't been raised right. Yeah. Once they get past a certain age, it is nearly impossible to reverse. And I believe that children gain who they are from the ages like 4 to 6, something like that. They taught us in sociology. I mean, that's real. They really develop personality traits. Lying, they'll develop that from 4 to 6, man. You better watch them close, make sure they ain't lying about stuff. Interrogate them, ask them questions. When they got siblings, they are 10 times more likely to be a liar But also an only child hardly ever gets caught up in their lives because there's nobody to contradict them. Mommy, I didn't do that. Well, okay. There's no brother to come over and say, yes, he did. I seen him do it. So a lot of times it works both ways. The only child line never get caught, which in this psychology book we read is the breeding of a reprobate mind, where they just okay sin in their life, but they never got called out on the carpet for lying. And then they just okay in their life, continue to lie. And they become a pathological liar as a husband or as a wife. And you understand like, why in the world they lie all the time like that? But then you got brothers and sisters, they fight all the time, they lie. I'm a police officer at my house. I separate all three, and I ask all the questions, take down my notes, and then I go to one, then I pull them all together and say, well, how come he disagreed with you and you? Oh, all three of y'all stories are different? Everybody bend over. Now, I believe, listen, they get older and it's hard to reverse, but I believe you still ought to cut them off. But you better be ready for a battle. If a child told me no, if I tell a kid to do something, and he tells me no, and walks in his room and turns on his $400 game system that I bought him, or Mama bought him, or whoever stink bought him, and just disobeys me, I will walk in there, and I will take it, and in a spiritual way, toss it in the trash can. Now, if I wasn't on live stream, I might as well tell you what I'd really do. I'd probably walk in there and say, pow! Explode that thing on the ground. That's just me. Right? Why do people think they can use you? Why let your children think they can use you and tell you no and do whatever they want, and you're going to buy their food, you're going to buy their house, you're going to buy them $500 sneakers or $300 or whatever they cost, you're going to buy them systems, you're going to buy them all that stuff? You're stinking crazy, man! That's breeding rebellion, and you're asking to have an anarchist, asking to have a rebel as a child. There's a conditional word in verse 1. It says, in the Lord. Now, this is why I wouldn't really throw it on the ground and explode it. I'd just take it and lay it in the trash. Their obedience is conditional on the parent's behavior. You can't show wrath and anger and expect them not to show wrath and anger. Am I right? Walk in time in. Oh, are you playing your game? How are you doing? You got this saved? Because I need it. Then just go lay it in the trash. You know, be of the Lord when you do it. You got to parent in the Lord. You got to live right. That's usually a problem now. You tell your kids, now children, don't you lie. Don't you ever tell lies. Then you take them out shopping. Don't you tell Daddy where we went today. Huh? Don't you tell Daddy we went shopping. Hypocrite! Don't you tell Mama we stopped here to eat. Hypocrite! Lauren, where you at? Took her to the piano the other day and we went somewhere. We don't have to tell Mom we come here, Daddy. Lean on tight, you know, and I'm like, I said, yes, we do, honey. I said, we don't have nothing from each other ever. Your parenting cannot contradict the Bible and expect results out of your children. You're confusing them. You're messing them up in the head. God's law is before our law. There's a clarifying word in verse 2 and 3. When you honor and obey, what happens in verse 3? That it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. You're going to have a better quality of life if you honor your parents. You treat them like trash and cuss them and call them names, you're going to die. You're going to die early. The Bible says you're going to be sick, you're going to have bad health, you're going to die early. That's what that verse says. With promise. The first commandment, with promise. That it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest live long on the earth. You have a better quality of life, and you have a better quantity of life. I believe you'll be blessed if you honor your parents. Then there's a challenging word in verse 1. Man, how long is this point? For this is right. I guess we needed this today. 6 and 1 says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. The reason you ought to obey is not to please your parents, but to please the Lord. You're going to find out one day that pleasing the Lord is the best thing you can ever do in your life. Then verse 4 says this, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. I'm leaving the kids right now. I'm going to talk to the parents. Moms, y'all don't get out of this one just because it says, and ye fathers. You help raise them. You raise them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Mamas are probably with them more than daddies are. And it's talking to parents. Listen, this text is more important than you think. At the time when Paul wrote this, he was writing to a society that was more dysfunctional than ours. He was talking to Greek and Roman cultures that oftentimes had 20 marriages. Our people get divorced once, twice, maybe thrice, but these guys were having 20 different marriages. The fathers ruled with an iron fist. They cast their children. Listen, if they got mad, they'd cast their children out at any time. Throw them out in the street, sell them as slaves, and get rid of them. And they'd take the law into their own hands, and sometimes they would kill their children. So as a preacher, I get discouraged when I'm preaching to people that consistently have family problems, and marital problems, and children problems. But think about what Paul was going through. Yeah. That brother, you're struggling with them 20 wives. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know. Yeah, help us, Lord. But there's a cautioning word. Provoke not your children to wrath. Now, I think we're more guilty of this than we think. There was one parent in a book that I was reading that said teenagers, I think he was talking about breaking their will. I do believe in some of that. But the teacher, he said the teenager needs to be brought to the brink of rage. I believe that's a made-up philosophy, and it's going to cause resentment of that child to you and to discipline. And if you continually bring them to the brink of wrath, they're going to resent authority. So how do we provoke that wrath? Some of us may be opinion, but how do we provoke that wrath? I'll give you some verses on it. Speaking harsh, degrading, and disrespectful ways. Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turns away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. You're to speak to that child in a manner that builds them up and edifies them. Now listen, I play around in our family, and we act stupid, and we call each other names. You know, we say Lauren will walk straight into a door sometimes, or bend over and dump her whole plate of food out. And we'll be like, you are a goofball, man. I mean, we play around and say stuff. But listen, when we call names in an anger manner, when we're mad and say you're stupid, you're an idiot. And I ain't going to say I ain't done it before. Brock pull off on his motorcycle and almost kill himself. And I say, you're acting like an idiot, son. Well, I'd probably not even go that far. Amen? God forgive me, and I need to do better. But don't you ever call them names. You don't call them stupid. You don't call them an idiot. You don't call them a dummy. Listen, we ought not do it. We ought to, listen, it's hurting them inside. And it's real easy to get mad and use them same words when you play around with them, and then you get mad, you're going to use the same words. This will have a different effect on your children. Your children hear your tone. They hear how you talk to others. Ma'am, don't talk down to your husband and mouth him off all the time and override him, tell him he's stupid and act like he don't know what he's doing, and then jump on your children for running their mouth to you. You're a hypocrite. At least that's what your child thinks. Try your dead level best to never speak in anger. How about another one? An inconsistent discipline. Now this is a big one. He that spareth the rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. So you go ahead and interpret the rod however you want to. I spank my children. He that don't hates them. You understand what the Bible's saying? If you don't discipline your child, you hate it. It's constant work to consistently discipline children. When your rules change every day, dependent upon your mood, your children will never know what to do. It's teaching pure chaos and anger and wrath. Regular scenario. Y'all stop doing that. Y'all wear me out. Y'all better stop fighting in there and stop doing all that. Hey, simmer down in there. That's it. Everybody's getting what now? Regular scenario in most houses with a lot of children.
Amen.
Huh? Y'all looking at me like it's only happened in my house. I got to whip it down, man. I get this belt out of here, and it sounds like, it sounds like an organ playing or something. You're teaching them to explode when they get mad. You're doing more damage than you are good. How about over-discipline? Some things don't call for spanking and grounding. One day my mama, I love her, but she had 21 whoopings lined up for me. When Dad got home, I put on 3 pair of underwear and a wallet in both bags. I was a rich kid. I had a wallet in both back pockets, 3 pair of underwear on. That just happened to me today. Dad said, drop your drawers, son. I had chops, man. How about a lack of discipline? I think they'll wonder if you care about when you don't discipline. He that spareth the rod hateth his son. He that loveth him chasteth the beat. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. They're foolish. But the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. The rod and reproof give wisdom. But a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. Your child will not make a connection between sin and consequences. You're training them that sinning is okay with God. You're training them to be an infidel. Let's keep going. Fault finding with no praise. Heaviness in the heart of man maketh it stew, but a good word maketh it glad. So often we reprimand them and find their faults and get on them, and we never give them praise. We beat them to death, we send them to their room, we never give them praise. We never make them feel good. We never tell them how good they are. How about this one? Improper physical contact. Now, I personally don't think, I'm just going to say this, I've done it once or twice in my life. I've smacked Brock on the rear. I personally don't think that you ought to hit your kid with the hand that loves them. This is the hand that feeds them and loves them. Why would you slap them in the face? I know my mama slapped me in the face, and it didn't hurt me. It was old school, but under the guidance of my pastor, I try never to slap my children in the face or slap them with the hand that loves them. We have a pattern that sits up on a shelf. That's the bad guy. Not my hand. We try to not do it when we're angry. I believe chasing a kid. How many of y'all endured this? Running! I ain't taking it! Running! My mom, I think she just flipped it around one time and got to start getting him with the buckles. I remember it taking a hard hit. And it was up high. When you're running, you get up high on the back. Ain't that right? Yeah, you better just stick that butt out and take But listen. Well, I ain't even got through the first point yet. We're going to be here all day. Listen to me. When you're chasing them around, I personally believe it's abuse. Because you're just beating on them, and they're not learning submission. The point of discipline is to learn submission to authority. And in all honesty, since the age of faith is coming, and you need to bend over, grab that bed, drop your pants, and whatever. And whatever needs to happen. Not one of them would fight. They learned to do it. Now we had Tyler fight, and he had to get 5 multiples, you know. You had to take it, sit down, wait 5 minutes, come back, see if he'd submit, come back, see if he'd submit. Until he submitted. It's not about the pain you're inflicting. It's not about, you really shouldn't have to inflict any pain. It's pure submission. Can't refuse to humble themselves. Brock got the multiples one time because he kept getting angry afterwards. When your kid screams in your face, for 10 minutes after they get spanked, that's pure rebellion. And if you told them they're getting again to shut up, they'd probably shut their mouth right now if they believed you and if it was really going to hurt them. Now, if you give them a little spoon and they scream and cry, and won't stop, you say, stop that. They won't stop. If one thing, it probably didn't even hurt them because it's probably too small. Number two, that they're just showing you pure rebellion, they're going to do it again. I've watched people go in a room to discipline their child, and the child come out smiling and laughing. I don't know how real that is. My process, based on my pastor, 10 years ago that I've used on every one of my children, we have set offenses. My kids don't get whooped for roughhousing. They don't get whooped for fighting unless I tell them to stop and they keep doing it. They don't get whooped for being boys. They don't get whooped for doing that stuff. There's three things. It's called disrespect. That's rolling your eyes, huffing, back talking, harsh talking, doing that. There's disobedience. If I ask you to do something, you don't do it. And there's lying. God cannot stand lying. Manipulating a situation or telling lies. If they do something, you break something, how many, my kids will tell you, if they come and tell me, they may get in a little bit of trouble, but they probably ain't going to get the worst of it. But if they lie to me, it's coming. All children are different, ages, personalities, and giving one more discipline than the other, sometimes it'll help one, sometimes it'll only damage another. You got to know your kids. Don't ever discipline an ager. When paddling is your discipline of choice, we was coached to use the paddle, not a belt, because it's controllable. One or two swipes, often it don't even have to be that hard. It's all about the submission. All right, we'll get on this next one. Man, it's too late. Bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Nurture, educate. Don't ever discipline them without explaining why. You ever whoop them and just leave them alone and say, go on about your business? You ought to go sit and pray with them and tell them exactly why that happened. Admonition, encourage, and counsel. Guide them and direct them. Give them Bible verses for what just happened. I hate the liberal philosophy, let your child be who they want to be. That's out of the pits of hell. Yeah. That's what the public schools say. You can be whatever you want to be. There's some Disney movie came out not so long ago. That mouse or whatever, that rabbit that wanted to be a cop or something. You can be whatever you want to be. No, we're here to raise you into what you ought to be and to raise you up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Raise them up in the way they should go. They won't depart from when they're old. All that ties together, and none of it says, just be who you want to be. Come help me, Rue. My goodness, it's 12:20 and we got through the first one. That might mean I got another message for next week. It's on submission of women and love for men. Y'all like that? How about, I think every child, I think every young person in the room, all y'all have disrespected your parents at some point in time. Am I right? Make your head move. All y'all. Because you're young in Christ. If you're saved, you're young, and you just learn to do. But the best thing in your life is learn to respect and honor mom and dad. You teenagers, you are at that point where the devil trying to get y'all off out of it. It ain't right to cuss mom and dad. It ain't right to tell them that. And if you want your listen, your mom and dad may have the biggest desire in their heart to be able to say, as for me and my house, we serve the Lord. Mama might be heartbroken because her little ones that they're watching them go out into the world and out towards the devil, and they won't listen, and they're talking back, and there's no peace in the home. And because of that one child, because of the way you're acting, young person, the mom and dad can't even say the words, as for me and my house will serve the Lord. I can't because my young'un never wants to go to church and fights with me every time we go. How about we choose today, young folks, that we're going to listen to mom and dad. We're going to serve the Lord. We're going to do what they want. We ain't going to back talk. We ain't going to say no. We ain't going to tell an adult no. We ain't going to tell the pastor no. We ain't going to tell the teacher no. All that authority in your life comes straight from God. And when you're telling somebody else no, you're saying, God, no, and you're spitting in his face. There ought to be a fear of what God puts in your life. I say all these kids ought to get on this altar and Michael gather around them and just pray over them. Maybe parents get with them and pray. I think as parents, maybe we ought to get on the altar today and say, you know what, we have been getting a little loose in front of our kids. We have been fighting and bickering a little bit too much in front of our kids. Maybe we need to separate them from that. Maybe we have talked about things, not even really sitting, just discussing situations going on in life that in turn can do damage to our children, and they're sitting there listening. Why don't we say the family unit is the most important thing, and we want to raise them up in a nurture and admonition of the Lord. And this morning, just get on the altar. Let's pray for the family unit. We want to see revival coming up in our church in the next couple of weeks and months. We need to pray for our families. So as Ruth begins to sing here in just a minute, let me have you bow your heads and close your eyes real fast. You young people, be a man today and lift your hand up and say, I've treated my family wrong. I see that hand. Anybody else? I see that hand. Young, I see that hand. I see that hand. Amen, boys. Yes, come on. I see that hand. Yes, I've said things to Mom and Dad. I've disrespected. I've talked about them behind their back. Won't you make it right this morning, youngins? Make it right. Mom and Dad, maybe you'll lift your hand and say, you know, maybe I haven't, you ain't going to say what it is or nothing like that. Maybe I just haven't done everything like I should. Or, preacher, I can do things better. I see that hand, amen. I see that, all over the room. Preacher, I can do better in raising my children. Teacher, I can do better in following that Bible. I see those hands. Why don't we get on this altar and just pray for our families this morning? Sing, Brother Ruth. Lord, we love you. God, I'm asking you to build the family units, God, in this church. God, our church is only going to go as far, God, as our families go. Lord, I ask you, God, bless our families. God, bless my family, Lord. I want to thank you for my children, God. I want you, God, just to keep them straight, God, along the way. Help us, God, to raise them properly. God, help us to teach them the things of the Lord here. God, help us never to gossip, never to talk about things in front of them that we shouldn't. God, help us never to fight in front of them. God, help us never to do things in front of them that contradict the word of God, dear Lord. I ask you, God, help us, God, just to raise them, God, in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And God, I ask you to strengthen our family unit, dear God. We know that's how we're going to see mighty things happen around here, God, through the families, dear Lord. And God, I ask you to strengthen marriages, God, today. I ask you, God, to strengthen children today, God. Give them the ability, dear Lord, God, to give them discernment, God, that surpasses what some adults have. And that they'll know right from wrong, God. They'll know how to treat mom and dad. Lord, I ask you, God, they're saved as we are. God, they've got Holy Ghost conviction. And Lord, I ask you, God, to convict the young folks in the room, God, when they don't live right, when they don't talk right, when they don't do right, dear God. I ask you, Lord, to convict them in their soul, God. Let them know it's Holy Ghost conviction, God. Let them live right. Let them do right, God. Oh, God, help our families today, God. We need strong families, God. If we're going to resist the fiery darts of the devil, Lord. Yes, God, we need strong marriages, God. Yes, God, we need strong families, God. Lord, we need godly children, Lord. We need godly men, Lord. Please, God, help us, Lord. Please, God, strengthen us, Lord. God, I want to see revival in our church, God. I know that's going to come by our families strengthening themselves, God. Following you, Lord. Help us, God. Oh, Lord, do something special in here. God, take some youngins, God, and help them, Lord, just to truly repent, God. Maybe a husband, maybe a wife will truly repent and say, I've been doing wrong. I'm going to do better. I'm going to be kind. Oh, God, help us, Lord, this morning. God, touch us, Lord. We love you. Lord Jesus, we need you. God, help us, Lord. Touch these families, Lord. Take your time this morning. Hey, all the more time you spend with God, the better. Yes, Lord, help us, God. Help our families, Lord, touch them. Yes, God, build family units, God, that are strong, God, that will stick with this thing for a lifetime, God, of service. Help them, Lord, God. Convict my own children, God, of things in their life, God, that they may need to do right, get right, say right. God, help us, Lord. We need you, Lord. We need your touch.
In his eyes, God looked down through time, saw him spread upon, rejected and gone. Still he grew.
subjection. Next time it'll be loving your spouses. Might as well turn this into a 3-week series. Make that second point along with too. And the last one will be leading spiritually. Amen. Y'all come on, let's take up the offering tonight or this morning. A little bit different for a Sunday morning message.